The Therapist and the Coach podcast is a space for real relational conversations about what it means to be human.
In a world obsessed with fixing, achieving, and self help, we invite you to pause, lean in, and discover the wisdom already inside.
Together, we explore how healing, growth, and transformation can happen not in isolation, but in connection.
Through open hearted dialogue, we challenge the myth of self regulation and self improvement, offering instead co regulation, psychological safety, and the power of being seen. I was thinking about the last time where we left and we talked about listening and what prohibits us from actually being to listen. And we talked also about in order to listen, we have to be present. When we talk about being present, it gives us the capability, but truly present, to actually be open to listening, to attending, to absorb things that usually when we're not actually present, we have a very narrow slit where we're looking at reality. And usually when we're not present, I think this is where when we started talking about last time about the implicit memories, which is the sum of the experiences that we had when we grew up, all these things that are getting us to be worried, depressed, think about the future, the past is coming, ruminating. It's all has to do with the past or the future. And usually the future has to do with the past, because if the past is not resolved, we're worried about the future. And then we're not present. If we're present, we're usually actually okay. So that means that we can be actually in the here and now. And that has to do with when we started talking about the right brain last time, about the reservoir that is kind of like sometimes getting really full, kind of that pitcher of water. That a lot of it has to do with the implicit, the things kind of that like sitting there for a long time and never cleaned up. Depends on how the trauma is that we had as little kids, or as we grew up, no matter what the trauma is. And if it's unresolved, it sits there. And then we try to kind of like rolling with our left brain how to solve it, what to do, what to do, what to do. And when we think about what to do, there is no present. There is something that we are actually trying to resolve from then and there, coming to the here and now, and we're just occupied about things that usually we have no control, or we had no control before that affected us, that clogs our right brain system and doesn't allow us to be present. So there's a lot into it, and I was thinking like so many times we're running into, so do this and do that and all these things and you'll be okay, where there's so many things that are actually pressed inside and never let us go. So we kind of like getting distracted, but it doesn't mean that we are present. And so I think it's just really important to actually dive into that place where it doesn't allow us so many times to be present, regardless what we do. Because usually when we try to do something about that, we clogged ourselves with even more things to do and not being actually spacious. So there are obviously techniques, like mindfulness techniques and all that stuff, cognitive behavioral,
There's
techniques.
lots of things to do.
There's a lot of things to
Present.
do, but
Yeah.
but most of the time, and that's I think what people don't. It's the simplest thing of have kind communication with people. Imagine that you can actually sit right now. You and I sit, and we just before the session, even we just talked a little bit about our daily life. I woke up in the morning for a clogged clogged faucet that I left the snake inside, and you were had to do with so many things, and you kind of like, and we just want some peace, just to unclog. And just the conversation with you, even before that, kind of like, okay, now I'm much better. We didn't have to solve anything, just be together.
That was just a couple minutes too.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, I know. I appreciate the fact that you referenced that because that kind of, I mean, it goes back to other things we've talked about with regards to self-regulation, co-regulation. Yes, I can have my yoga practice. I can go for my morning walk as I do my whole morning routine, and I can and be self-regulated. but still holding a lot. And then when I bring that into relationship, there is another level of grounding that sinks me a little deeper. I I'm thinking about clarification. So I'm going to say about being present, something that distracted me and I want to ask about so that I can be present. So when you're saying we, are you talking we as therapists? Are you talking we as human beings?
Might
You know, I
be.
guess the open coach-like question would be, what does we mean?
That's a good question. By the way I just want to reiterate something that you said that was very interesting. You said like, I want to be mindful of something that I was mindful of. In mindfulness, we call that meta, to be aware of the awareness.
Cool.
And it is so important. This is like if people wants to have some actually self techniques to clean up a bit and to be more present is to be just like, oh, sometimes I sit in meditation. I've been meditating for years. And
Mhm.
people think that when you sit in meditation, you just like close your eyes, and if you're so experienced, you clear your mind and you're in heaven and you're one with the universe. Well, you sometimes have those gifts, but most of the time not. So, I'm sitting in meditation and I have all these laundry list of what I need to do. And if I'm not regulated, I'm just thinking immediately, oh, what I need to do, what that, it comes to my mind anyway. The reason that I mentioned that is that now I'm trying to do something like that called then again meta. It's like
Mhm.
basically, so I'm aware that I'm actually right now thinking about the laundry list, just like you were kind of aware of the awareness that you had and you want
Mhm.
to talk about it, means that you are present. And that was
Mhm.
beautiful example.
Mhm.
Many
Meta
people, many
awareness, so
people
being the observer of your
of the
experience,
observation, of the
Mhm.
observation.
Of the observation itself. The
So
observer.
in quantum physics, we are, and generally we are creating reality by observing something. So if we are on the laundry list, or think about this is the reality that you create. But if we are actually aware of what we are aware of, then we create a different reality that is actually coming to the here and now, because that's what's happening right now. You were aware at that moment of something that you were aware of,
Mm.
and
Well,
that got to me, which is wonderful, because then we are present with that.
mm.
So basically, and so many times that aware of the awareness is actually canceling something that nagging you. Like if you were aware of that but pushed it inside and continued, you know that would still be in you, and it was that. But the moment you are actually said that to me or to yourself even,
Mm.
that got you to the here and now,
Mm.
which is creating space, obviously, because you cleared it. You just right with me. You said like, all right, I need to tell you about that. So many times people don't do that. And by the way, when I was talking about I'm talking about human beings, obviously.
Yeah, okay. Well, I mean, it can be obvious, and yet at the same time, it is a skill set that I know as a coach I've had to develop, and you just really beautifully reflected back something that is so ingrained in me that I didn't realize I was doing it. And also, language is so important. Can I just say that? So, meta awareness, new
Yeah,
information for me. My brain is going do 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 do, like like way way in the background because I am present. But
yes,
there is I think about newer coaches coming into the field and the noise, the internal and external noise that they bring with them, whether it be a cluttered desk, whether it be, whatever affects them or me, that definitely was my experience. But it is definitely a muscle to exercise, is to be present
yes.
and I and then present to what?
Right, to whatever you want to attend to, right? So
Well, but okay, okay, that's interesting. Okay, that language is really whatever you want to attend to in coaching land. So I actually would love for you to address this from your perspective too. In coaching land, I am present to what the client is offering and move in with curiosity. Blank slate. Like they are the expert of their reality from the perspective of a coach. I'm curious, and I don't mean to derail us here, but I'm curious about your
oh,
perspective
that's
on
a
this
great
because
question, and actually the same.
Are
You
you
know, you
listening with theoretical background though? Like, are you listening for trauma? Are you listening? Do you have a bias that you're actually listening for from a therapeutic perspective?
so this is a great question and a topic. It's like, what are we, what is our role in a way? Like, our as a coach, as a therapist, as leaders, as parents, my bias is that I'm open to listen to whatever needs to be said from the other side.
Mm.
So usually I start a session, any session with anyone, is like, what do we want to be with today? So we might, and it might be that we ended up last session with something that we couldn't really finish and it was really on. But for the client, whoever that, by the way, that's not necessarily for therapy, for coaching, for whatever it is, I just want to be where they are now, not what my need, or supposedly we didn't close it last time. And like we are doing right now a podcast, so we want to attend to the continuity, but sometimes we won't. As I think we had even sometime at some point we had a podcast which says that we're going to continue, and the next time we came, we start talking about something else, which is
I
which is
know.
which is fine. Which is fine. That's
Okay.
what we needed to be with, because I
Yeah.
think that it will circle anyway what we didn't
Mm,
really
mm.
finish.
It's all
So
related.
yeah, it's all related. So for me, when I am with people, I want to see where they are at right now, because that will tell me that is it my need to go there with them to there because we didn't close it, and it might not be that they need right now to be there, because it could be that the window of opportunity for them at the time, let's say that they were vulnerable and something came up and it was open and we closed it within the session as much as we could, or it didn't close. And so you're kind of thinking like, okay, now the next time that we talk, it's so important, it was so on, let's continue with that. But so many times what I find out that people, whether in therapy, no matter who they are, is that it was true to then and there, and there was like a window that where the open it was, we needed to attend to that, and all of a sudden they come this session with something completely different, and that
Mm,
tells me, and I listen to that. So in my mind, I remember what happens before. Sometimes I
mhm,
remember,
mhm,
sometimes I don't. But
mhm. I appreciate the honesty.
oh yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, I don't remember sometimes.
Yeah.
And so sometimes kind of I remember what happened because it was a big deal with that. And but I asked their, because as you said, I trust their inner world to tell me what they need at this point of time.
Mm,
And there was, just if I may say, there was a guy, a theoretician in self-psychology called Kohut, Franz Kohut, and he was the father of self-psychology. And he said something very interesting about empathy, because we said empathy is like, put yourself in somebody else's shoes and you'll feel what they feel. You can resonate with them. But he said something so interesting that it stayed with me since grad school. And he said, empathy is the ability to understand what a person needs at that point of time.
mm.
And it's so beautiful in my mind. It's like, and that you do by actually listening without an agenda. Now, so many times we're people, we have an agenda, we want to help. But the question is, and especially, young therapists, I can imagine young coaches, young anyone that wants to kind of that's like, let me help. I want to help them and to heal them and give all
Well,
the techniques.
the helping is about the need to help, and that's actually driving behavior. So, I mean that as we're coming into the field, that is absolutely 100% you, because at that point they're relying on what they know, they're relying, I want to own that too. I was relying on what I knew. I was relying when I came into the field on
We all
what
did
I
that.
was taught to do. I was really focused
Right,
on that. And
right.
it was where I started. It was what but that also goes back to those other conversations we've had about seeking and needing approval. I was
Yes,
relying on those things because that's how I got my gold star. That's how I got my woo, you're the best coach in the world.
yes,
That's like,
yes,
woo, you changed my life. Like all these things, but they were filling a need in me. And when I
yes,
realized that, I
yes.
couldn't grow in the field. I couldn't expand without realizing how actually selfish
Oh,
or
thank you, Lorraine, for saying.
driven
Yeah, this is brilliant.
I was being and not realizing it. And that's also the human experience. Like again, if
Absolutely.
that's where we come in is getting needs met and we're these wonderful, resourced, incredible beings that can solve all kinds of problems and figure out how to get unmet needs met. If I'm
Absolutely.
in the if I'm in the role I'm in to meet my personal needs, right there is a layer of presence I don't have for someone else,
Exactly.
or an ability to be empathic or truly
Exactly.
be with someone in a really clean, energetically clean
Exactly.
way. Because that is a hidden agenda that is driving some kind of behavior, line of questioning, vibe, like sense of I might need to be right, or I don't know. It's
Exactly. And then
again,
you're present to your needs rather than to what the other person needs because you're not available for that.
yeah, yeah. Yes. Ooh, juicy. And I want to create a coaching distinction here, which also, again, as we've come to learn, might not be a distinction because we keep coming back to all the similarities. Because what you've shared right now is the same way I hold space for my clients is I trust the process. I trust what they're bringing in. One of how I understand coaching to be at this time, and I'm saying at this time because I am so excited to see where the profession goes, and that we can transcend and expand beyond where we're at which is one of the things I love about coaching is it's continually evolving. Again, don't know about therapy because we haven't had that conversation yet, but um my understanding about coaching is that one of the distinctions that I've made in my own mind between therapy and coaching is the way we set agreements. And agreements are embedded in our competencies in all of our coach education. That is anything related to the, ICF, International Coach Federation, which is the body of governance. There's other bodies as well, but that's the one I
Right.
adhere to or
Right.
align with, has been around the longest. Um, and so the agreements are anchored to a desired outcome. So there is some kind of behavioral, sometimes it's a way of being or a personal development outcome or both, but there is a vision or an agreed upon outcome that we're moving towards. And that is the anchor that, and so this is where my language around healing forward. And I say healing forward because the past does come up in the conversation. So I need to be able to hold that complexity with the present moment and what's coming up and trust that, and that's why I wear this ring, is to remind me that the interconnectedness of all things. That
Yes.
it might seem so random what they're bringing in, and yet if I ask the question, what does this topic have to do with X, which is where you're heading? What you know, what's the relationship there? Or what's and there's always a connection, and
Oh,
often the person will go, well, I don't know. I'm like, okay, we'll just sit for, a minute, and, anything. And often something comes up and sometimes it doesn't, but most often it does. So without carrying on too long about that, that idea of agreements and how we set our agreements from the present with a desired outcome that I as a coach help my client build their relationship and trust in themselves and they're doing, action steps come out of the awareness, I find. So if I'm focused on awareness, the action steps take care of themselves and people organically, naturally move the barriers and find
mhm.
themselves propelling themselves often quicker to the outcomes that they want to achieve.
Right.
I'm not attached to that outcome because sometimes it changes. Like, so attachment is definitely something, but that is a coaching perspective on presence. So I'm also, like you, present to what the client is bringing in, but it's held in a container of what they want to achieve. And as we're talking, and the question I asked you was, does your therapeutic, like just by the nature of being a trauma therapist, and this isn't a bad thing because we're human, but how does your bias affect your presence? And I'm thinking about the same thing for me. If I'm focused present forward, how does that affect my bias, even if I think like, or how I show up or what I'm present to, even though I think I'm super unbiased. I
We
don't.
all, we obviously we're
Yeah.
all, and
Yeah.
that's just, that's the soup of the day. No judgment, but
Yeah.
Everybody,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, we judge,
But wipes out what you just said. So
and
yeah.
it's okay. We judge, that's part of being human, Then again, the meta comes to here to say, like, I'm aware right now that I judge. I'm aware
Mhm.
sometimes that my father inside or my mom inside, as much as sometimes I don't want them, come in a conversation. And so if I'm aware of them, rather than say I'm not judging and I'm judging, that's then again not being present. But I think that, when you said like we're present, I'm present and on, I think for me, what I found, and then again, therapy, there's different modalities of therapy.
Right.
There's so
Mhm.
many different ways of doing that. Many of them I personally don't like because they are uh, try to fix and try to fix with agenda. Here's the deal. Go, 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 go.
No. Keep going. No, I am listening and I'm present to what you're saying. I can hold it
So they try to say, we
without
talked
distraction.
about, yeah, so you talk about like intention, like we have a goal. So if let's say a client comes to me and they usually come with not all, by the way, some comes to just for self-development because they understand how important it is just to develop, not because
Mhm.
anything is wrong with them. But
Yeah.
many people come because they have depression, they have anxiety, they have addiction, they have work related, whatever problems that they have that they want to solve. So they come to the therapist, to the coach, I mean, I'm kind of including all of us because that's why
Yeah.
they come to us to help us to solve something. What I find, what I'd like to really upfront say is that many times, and that's where I have a bias. And it's not necessarily well, it is a bias, but it's also how my modality works. And from my experience,
Mhm.
is that if somebody, let's say, have depression, and I give them all the tools. Wake up in the morning and do this and do yoga and let's say I gave him all the right tools and read this book and all that. Cram them with things to do to
Mhm.
alleviate the depression.
Mhm.
Smile in the day when you do that and
Mhm.
fake it until you make it. All these things.
Mhm.
Really, the depression is going to go away. It's not. And that's usually what people are getting caught
Temporarily, maybe. But
temporarily.
then it's even worse when it comes back because it's like,
Yes,
oh, I spent all
because
this
it's,
money and I had all these
yes,
and
yes.
I can't even, do this right
Exactly,
or whatever. Yeah.
exactly, Lorraine. Exactly.
Mhm.
And that's where I'm going with. So people might come with agenda on usually based on they think that it needs to be solved the way they know because they maybe were told all their life how to do and what to do. So they go immediately to usually they choose even a therapist or might be also a coach that resonate with how they think that they should go with that.
Yes. And then therefore going back to other podcasts,
And they're perpetuating the
you're
same cycle over
perpetuating
and
the
over again.
cycle.
They
You
won't
know,
trust. It takes time to trust something that against all our experiences.
yeah. I
It
mean,
just that and that's where healing actually happens. Is not going to the same pattern of, but usually that's what we go because that's what we know. So my bias is that I trust I don't I know that people want sometimes the way they think that they know how to do that. And I know also from my experience, professional, my own healing, blah blah blah, that this doesn't really work. Scientifically it doesn't work. The brain doesn't work that way.
it's not sustainable.
It's not
It
sustainable.
does work
For
and
for
it's not sustainable.
and we're going to one and another training and another book and another this and
Yes,
then
yes, and
and
that, oh,
and just we have all these degrees and all these stars as you said, like, and inside the person feel empty, fraud, incapable. Just tell me what to do, tell me what to do, and then they try to get others to do the same, but within the quest of helping them.
well, it's really interesting because I this is another place where you and I are same, same, feeling really aligned with everything you're saying, and we'll invite, actually say to people who are seeking my services that to be, I check in with them. How open are you to a journey that is one that you're not, thinking about already, like, or think and so to speak to everything that you're saying is this, bias, I guess, that I have. And again, talking about bias, I even have a little bit of a bias against that because we are
Yeah.
human and it actually can be a distraction from
Yeah.
just trusting. Just
Yes.
trusting one's now, I think intentions and clean energy, and I think that that talking about bias is a way of talking about our way of being or mindset and or heart set and or, but it's our whole vibe, our whole alignment with self and awareness. And we okay, so two things. Just to answer the thing that I got all excited about, and then I just jotted it down so I could be present. Like I had to do that because I was so excited about it, but I also wanted to attend to what you were saying. And that is that the answers to change that most people seek from my experience personally and professionally, it does not lie in behavior. The answers do
Oh,
not lie in behavior, not more doing. Now,
never does.
doing is important. And that's when I come back to when I'm sitting with someone and present and curious, and my intention is to support them to expand their awareness of their situation and or themselves. And I trust myself to be able to be present to whatever arises or emerges. And if it emerges, they're ready to handle it. Like trusting them on that level that someone's psyche isn't going to release anything to be witnessed or to be seen unless the person is ready to witness and see it and have it be witnessed and seen. Like
Exactly
there's
right.
this amazing ability to know what one's ready for. So if I trust people on that level and I trust myself to be able to be present to it, action, the doing emerges, but it's in that container and in that sweet space of trust. And that's where I find sustainability lives. That's where all of a sudden there's no barriers. That's where I feel like I'm most connected and doing my deepest work. And yet, so many people come in, as you said much earlier, very, very succinctly, that people come in expecting to fix at the level of behavior. And sometimes people fire me because they aren't prepared to do and I say fire me like that, like that's a bad thing, but they release themselves from the engagement
Yeah.
because either
It's
they're
not
not ready or it's not there.
absolutely 100%.
And I'm not here to pressure them. So I'll sit with someone, but if I've been sitting in a space for a long time and they aren't growing, and that's my commitment and my ethical responsibility as a coach, not to force them, not to rush them, but to acknowledge, hey, we've been sitting in this space for 3 to 4 months now. I'm getting the sense, again, being present to me, that 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 there might be additional support needed to move through this because I'm not seeing you doing that on your own. And ethically, I'm not sure if these conversations are going to take you there. And that's where having a therapist like you in my back pocket who aligns with
Yes.
my beliefs and resonates with who I am can be a smooth transition for someone to do that work and then come back to coaching or do coaching in conjunction with it. But there is an ethical
Right.
point where if I'm not present or meta present to what the whole relational aspect and my ethical commitment as a coach, and we have expansive ethics, and there's which I think is lovely because then people can express themselves within the context of that, and we can all be on the same train.
Right. Right.
So I kind of lost my train of thought there.
That was beautiful. And I may want to say something about that. Um, people ask me, sometimes I'm sitting in the room with people, as you said, it's trust. And if
Mm,
we didn't trust human being, our parents, let's say, in some things, that we can be actually safe with our
mm,
parents,
mm,
that's, scared, fear, real fear over many, many years. Why would we trust if we go to anyone, including any relationship,
mm,
when our experience with the people that we're supposed to trust the most was broken? So here it is again when we say it's trust, but we have to, what I try to get people to understand, trust is something that builds so many times. We're not starting from zero, we're starting from minus, from people who were not trusting. Now, the way the neurobiologically works, I usually when I speak about that, I give the example of let's say that we got a dog, adopted a dog that got abused,
Mm.
and let's say it's you, you adopted a
Okay.
dog, and you're the kindest person, which you are. Do you like dogs?
I have
You
one
have
pet
so
dog.
of course, Laura. I
Yes.
mean, I'm sorry about the question. I should, but I just wanted that I knew that you are. I
Yeah.
mean, without knowing about that, but you are a person that would love dogs. Anyway, you get a dog that is wounded, that got abused by people, abused by people since a puppy.
Mm-hmm.
You got them from the adoption, and obviously that dog is scared. He's coming now from a place of hell to the house of Lerae,
Mm.
which is wonderful, warm, the kindest thing, completely 180
Safe.
degrees.
Mm.
Does anybody think that the dog, even if let's say they're very intelligent, by the way, it's true to human beings too. I'm just chose a dog,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
let's say
not
there's like an orphan that you brought home, an orphan person, a gal or a guy that you brought home, and they're very wounded by people, physically, emotionally, you name it, and they come to your home, which is, by the way, I think a metaphor, not a metaphor, it's an example of our clients in their different ways. They have their own experiences. We don't know their experiences. So we just tell them, and they come to the expert and they say, and tell him, well, trust the process and do this and put your in all these things that do because it will help you. Imagine then again, let's go back to the dog or to the orphan who experience that the moment they see a human being, they're not coming forward. They're going to move backwards because they're scared due to the experiences. This is the implicit memories, meaning that this is the sum of the experience that this dog or a person, all of us, had in one way or another that shaped our capability to trust or not. Why would this dog, let's say they're very smart, they know that you're kind. How many times it happened to you with clients that they know what they need to do, they can't because
Mhm.
they're blocked inside. They're not stupid, they're maybe hyper intelligent, but they're scared inside based on their experience. And us, as the therapists, the coach, the healers, the parents, the lovers, whatever it is, want to take that in respect, to respect that experience. Because if we are coming and tell them this important is the relationship, well, relationship was bad for them.
Mhm.
So in order, so why they might say, well, I do trust you, Oren. I do trust you, Lorraine. But do you think that it's going to all of a sudden open the door for them to do this? It takes a long. So let's go back to the dog. He's going to stand near you. You're going to come, let's say, a little bit closer, come to pet him. He's going to go backwards because he's scared, not because he doesn't need to be pet. He probably needs it the most. That's why the people, so many comes to us, they want relationship, they want to succeed, they want, and they need it more than anything else. Yet they're sabotaging that over and over again, not because they sabotage, because they had bad experiences. They're scared. So neurobiologically, the brain, we are born to connect, not to disconnect. This is what I want to put out there.
You're
We are born. The
hardwired
good
for
news, the good news, things can overcome in any degree, including schizophrenia, including any kind of problems, if we are respectful of the person's experiences and there with them for as long as needed. So that dog, if you really like frustrated, oh my God, what's wrong with this dog? Every time I come, they're running away. Frustrates you because you expect them to, you're safe right now. Let's say that you are, that you're safe. Like, come on, how much it's so frustrating. Every time I come, they're running away. Well, because they're scared. Now, because we have expectation of them to be in that way or another, we get frustrated. Now, if you get to have a respectful understanding of the dog, that orphan, that person, why they behave now the way they are, because it has a history. They were not born that way with a problem. They have
and
experience. And then
their empathy can connect.
that's the large, deep empathy. And empathy means sometimes that you might need to stand near the dog in a place where nobody moves, because if you go a little bit closer, he'll drift away. It will be too close to him, too scary. But if you just stay where you are patiently, they're gradually, any being, any mammal will start coming close, little by little. And if you get too close to him, all of a sudden a little bit, they'll go away. And it will go back and forth. So always the space where it's safe. And in my therapy, and I wrote it in my book even, remember with my therapist, we talked about my teenager times. And I was locked in my room, in my home, dying to get out of this house and also terrified. And we're sitting in therapy, like this was progressive, like after a couple of good years. And we sat in this living room, in this room with my teenager, both Bonnie, my therapist, and me, as a father to myself, to that teenager. And basically, we're there with him until he was ready, which took a really long time. And we both got frustrated. I'm still like, I felt like I'm going to be there forever. And I don't know, but I can imagine she was very that, and she knew it better probably. She just stayed with me. She used to tell me, "Well, stay there as long as that." And I asked her, when will it happen? Because I was so frustrated. It's like, I was frustrated. We as clients are frustrated. We're frustrated because we want to deliver results because that's what expected. It's hard. It's hard both the client, whatever it is, the client, or for us. And she said something that really actually happened. It will happen when it will be the time when it happens. And then there's no behavior, it just will happen. It will be ready to open the door and go out. And it's exactly what happened. And it took the time that it took, and it was honestly no way faster to get me out. No way
Well,
faster.
and if she leaned in, you may have gone back further.
It,
That is
exactly.
a
This is why I
really,
say slow is fast. That is like
yeah,
that's why I
well,
usually say slow is fast. Is the slow is just doesn't mean that we take we are exactly with where we need to be and trust the other person's world to gradually that just by our presence, kind presence, we're
mm,
doing more than any technique can do that would actually shame the person more and will get them to be stuck in the same place with us just trying so hard to get them. It's not possible, no, nor biologically not possible. So I'm
yeah,
trying to tell people just like sometimes, it's not most of the time, you have techniques that you learned over the years. I have techniques that I have from physics to this to that arsenal. I don't need that to be. I just want to be respectful of the person's world, and I trust over the year. I trusted to just see how things unfold for them in their pace, with their experiences, with their history that they bring from then and there to the here and now. And so, if I am present with whatever it is right now, that's whatever ever came from long time ago, coming to right now, and then by our presence, just kind presence things are gradually transform out. And that's build the trust, obviously. Trust is something that we don't really say like, oh, trust me. Yeah, I can give somebody my card, trust them that they'll bring it back. But if I tell them to talk about their feelings where they got hurt so many times, they can talk about it. They won't be present with their feelings. They'll be disconnected because it's too dangerous. It takes time to build that trust for them to and take into consideration that might have no trust before that with the people that they put their trust on. So it's just kind of being respectful of people's world, what they ever to bring, and just be there with them, meet them right there where they are, is the fastest way to heal or to get to any results that the person actually wants. So it's what I'm trying to say so many times that bias is that people think that they need, or people think that they need to be rich to be happy. They get to be rich and then they realize that it's never about that. I know
hey,
some.
wait, I'm going to correct that because there is research out there that actually says that money does buy happiness up to $60,000
Really?
from a place of psychological security and safety.
Oh, that
Right.
that's
So the
that.
$60,000, that, and
Okay,
again, that was
but
several
yeah,
years
yeah,
ago.
yeah.
It's probably
Oh, I
much
can see
more.
that. I can see how that happens
I know.
because that's actually. But you know what? That's true too because Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Mhm.
The base of the
That's what I
pyramid.
was thinking about.
Yeah, yeah. Because the base of if there is no sense of you cannot eat and you're not safe, how can you actually talk about your feelings? So it's necessary
Well,
step to be safe. First of all, it doesn't have to provide you happiness, but safety. Yeah.
yes, and now we know the world is what it is right now as we know it, but if that were to change, because it is changing.
It is changing.
Shelter insecurity, food insecurity, those insecurities are on the rise. And so it is something to be observant and aware of as to how do we meet people after all of what you've said. Now, this is a whole other, 10 episode podcast, but after all that you just so beautifully articulated and shared and illustrated and amplified in this, thank you so much for everything. That the what I'm going to be pondering about is everything that you shared about presence and how organically the process begins to take care
Yes.
care of everything.
Yes. Yes.
um
Yes.
and then being mindful of self, being mindful of honoring the whoever's coming into your space, and then that being enough is just to be present. And there's where the listening comes in, that deep listening
Yes,
helps
Lerae,
build
thank
that
you.
trust and safety.
Thank you. That's the true listening.
And then other things can get built on top of that. There's
100%.
so
And they
much
actually run by
unlocked.
themselves at some point. At some
Mhm.
point, when the person is just recover things inside, I think that we talked about the changes that to do things, that to do that is temporary, and then you have to do
Yeah.
that. The thing about that when we actually are healing inside, and healing means not necessarily from whatever it is, that even from work relationship, that thing that we've been listened and together, that stays. That doesn't go away. People can actually heal inside from depression, from anxiety, from all these things that prohibits them from actually perform also at work.
Mhm.
If we're only attended to the human part of them, being truly respectful of them.
Yes, and I'm going to illustrate that with an example. So, from the time my daughter was 6 months old, and my parents' two different forms of dementia, um, escalated to the point where they couldn't live together. It was unsafe for them to be together, and their care ended up being so my daughter, right up until 15, so 15 years, having another child, um, building my business, staying in my bed. I I tell people for those 15 years, I believe coaching saved my life because people were like, "How did you handle all of that?" Because it was all kinds of craziness. There was psychotic episodes from my dad. There was near death experiences in the family as a result of mental illness, like just figuring out all the different pieces. There was me being taken to court by my brothers. There was all kinds of crazy stuff that emerged in that time. And it was my coaching clients. It was having to park all of that and having the capacity from years of practice to park it all and leave it at the door, to be present, fully present with another human being that nourished me and fulfilled me. And so it went both ways. It went both
Absolutely.
ways. And
Absolutely.
that's where fulfillment really lives and feels so rich and
The
nourishing. I'm going to
connection.
say
Yeah, it's the
at
connection
a
itself.
cellular level.
Yeah, it's the connection itself.
How are you doing for time? I know that we are usually booked back to back. So I
I think
completely
that
immersed in
I
your
think yes, I know.
brilliance.
I think we
And
will have to continue next time because I because I will have a meeting in a couple of minutes.
all right. Well, I'm
But
going to shut things down. Is there anything you want to say in closing? Because you've just offered so much into the space.
oh,
It's,
I just invite people to think about how many times we try to help and actually we're helping our need rather than the other person's need. To
Mhm.
think about so many times, who am I helping? Who am I? What is it? My needs or it's the other person's needs?
Mm, mm,
It's like sometimes it can to be with kids. Like we want to protect them. Some people, parents don't get them out of the house. Just try to protect them in the same time as they jail them. So whose need is that? Is it the parent anxiety? Is it the leader's anxiety? Is it our anxiety? As the fact that we are professional doesn't mean that we are goddess and know that we're people with trauma too. So just to constantly see, is it belong to me or not, and why am I have that? Like when you said, like I had like this. Uh, I was sitting with they let me go because they expected
mm,
to have results in a way that was not
Mhm.
possible. So, and then we get to a place, you did an amazing job by saying, you know what, I'm not going to get into that
I'm not
frenzy
gonna go,
because I'm
yeah, I
not,
won't.
because I'm actually not helping you.
There is a meta presence that I know when that there's a line. Like I don't know where it is, but when I've crossed it, I
You
know.
know, you know.
Yep.
So, but the same time, kind of you said like sometimes we get into anxiety because they want goals and they want it right now and they're so suffering. And it doesn't happen like you go to the dentist, they open the tooth and close it and you go back home and it's okay. It takes time. So for us, sometimes we get frustrated a lot. We got kind of like, are we doing the right thing? Is it like that? And from my experience, if we're able to just trust, which takes time and experience and knowing yourself,
Mm.
as you will need to sit as much as needed to sit and things will open up when they're ready. And when they're ready, when are they going to be ready? When they happen. And
Yeah.
they always will. So I
Mm.
just want to think people to stay with that and see like, is it my need? Is it their need? Is it my anxiety? Just to see what belongs to know, what belongs to who. Because I think it's important both for therapists, for coaches, for parents, for that to
Healers.
see, is it my
Mm.
agenda to get on somebody because it's my world that, or I'm imposing that because that's what I think is good for them, or I'm actually listening to what they need.
Okay, so I'm going to sum up what you just said in one question. You've offered a lot of different options for people to connect and ground in and be mindful of when being with their clients around presence. So, who is my presence in service of in this moment?
Exactly.
Like,
Thank you.
really bring it in to
Oh,
this moment.
that's beautiful. Yeah.
You're wonderful, and I hope your plumber can help you
Oh,
fix
sweetheart.
what's going on.
You're too.
Yeah.
Thank you
All
so
right. Well, be
much.
well, and I look forward to our next conversation.
And the same here. Have a wonderful day. Wishing all of the people that watching it right now, give all of them a hug, a virtual hug.
All right, Oren, be well.